They say love changes shape over time. For me, it softened, from fireworks and late-night laughter to quiet dinners and shared silences. My name is Aleena. I've been married to Ryan for 8 years. He's thoughtful, predictable, and the kind of man who folds his socks and makes tea without being asked. Our life together wasn't extraordinary, but it was ours. We met in college. I was studying fine arts, sketching people from a cafe window, when he walked in and asked if I could draw him. I still remember the smirk on his face, confident but kind. That sketch now hangs in our living room, framed, faded, and slightly crooked, a reminder of where we started. Over the years, love mellowed. Passion dimmed, but comfort settled in. We stopped surprising each other. Conversations became logistics, bills, groceries, weekend chores. Ryan's work as an architect consumed him. My freelance design jobs kept me home, glued to my desk. But I never questioned our bond. If anything, I thought we'd grown into something stable, safe. Then something shifted. It began subtly. Ryan started coming home with flowers, once a rare gesture, now routine. He lingered in the kitchen longer, offering to help with dishes or asking how my day went. He even planned a weekend getaway to Murray, something we hadn't done in years. At first, I welcomed it. Maybe he missed me. Maybe he realized how distant we'd become. I caught myself smiling more, brushing my hair before he came home, lighting candles at dinner. I wanted to believe the spark had returned, not with a bang, but a gentle whisper. He seemed more present, more deliberate with his affection. I told my sister over the phone, "It feels like we're falling in love again." But alongside the warmth, there were shadows. He started taking calls in the hallway, voice lowered. His phone, once left carelessly on the sofa, now stayed in his pocket or face down on the table. One evening, as I walked into our bedroom, I saw him quickly swipe a message away before I could glance at the screen. He smiled like nothing happened. "Just work," he said. I didn't press him. Not yet. I'd always trusted Ryan. But something tightened in my chest that night, a quiet alarm, barely audible but impossible to ignore. The next morning, he made me breakfast, my favorite, French toast and strawberries. He kissed my forehead before leaving for work, and for a moment, I wondered if I was imagining things. Paranoia, perhaps. Or insecurity, wearing a familiar face. Still, as I stood by the window watching him drive away, I couldn't shake the thought. I tried to shake it off, the unease, the small voice whispering that something wasn't right. But the mind is a curious thing. Once it detects a crack, it begins to dig. And the more I looked, the more I saw. Ryan's sudden attentiveness became almost rehearsed. The flowers always came on Wednesdays. His tone stayed too calm when I brought up everyday annoyances, like he was trying not to trigger anything. And those phone calls, they continued. Always short, always ended with a clipped, "Okay, I'll talk to you later." One night, after he fell asleep, I noticed the faint glow of his smartwatch screen. A notification blinked briefly before disappearing. I didn't see the full message, only a name, Samira. Not a colleague I'd heard of before. I sat in the dark for hours, my thoughts spiraling. I wasn't the snooping type. I believed in privacy, in boundaries. But something about the secrecy felt deliberate, like I was being protected from a truth I hadn't agreed to ignore. The following Wednesday, while cleaning his car, I accidentally turned on the GPS history. My heart sank. There was a repeated location, an address in Gulshan Colony, marked every week at roughly the same time. I wrote it down without thinking. My hands trembled as I tucked the slip of paper into my pocket. That evening, I sat across from him at dinner. He was chatting about a new housing project he was designing. I smiled. I nodded. But inside, I was somewhere else entirely, watching shadows move behind his eyes, wondering what parts of our life were real and which ones were crafted. "Are you okay?" he asked mid-sentence. I snapped out of it. "Just tired," I lied. I started to withdraw, not out of spite, but out of survival. I needed space to think. My sketches grew darker, figures with no faces, staircases leading nowhere. I stopped replying to messages, canceled a client meeting, barely spoke to my sister. For the first time in years, I kept a secret from Ryan, that I knew something was wrong. The urge to confront him burned in me, but I wasn't ready. I didn't want to accuse without proof. I needed answers, not assumptions. And some part of me, the part that still believed in him, clung to the hope that there was an explanation, simple, honest, human. But when I passed by him the next morning and caught a glimpse of his screen again, my heart dropped. It was a photo of him, holding a child. The caption read, "He asked about you today." My world narrowed to a whisper. And suddenly, I wasn't afraid of losing him anymore. I was afraid I never really had him. I told Ryan I had a virtual client meeting, put on my sunglasses, wrapped a dupatta loosely around my head, and took a rickshaw instead of our car. I felt foolish, like a character in a drama I never auditioned for. But my instincts screamed louder than my shame. He left work around 4 p.m. I watched from a corner near his office gate. He didn't head home. Instead, he drove across the city to the same address from the GPS log, Gulshan Colony. A modest, older neighborhood. Streets lined with jacaranda trees. Quiet. Ordinary. I asked the rickshaw to stop at the end of the lane and waited, crouched behind a parked van. He knocked on a small green gate. It opened seconds later. A woman answered. She looked to be in her early 30s, simple clothes, warm face, no makeup. She smiled when she saw him, her eyes lighting up. Then she stepped forward and hugged him, comfortably, like it was something they'd done 100 times before. He disappeared inside. I stayed there for 30 minutes, frozen, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. Was this Samira? Was she the reason behind his late calls, his sudden affection, his emotional distance? A million questions buzzed in my head, but one stung the hardest. Was I not enough? I went home before he returned. When he entered, he kissed my cheek and asked what I wanted for dinner. I nodded quietly. Inside, I was screaming. After we ate, I stood by the sink, gripping a spoon like it was an anchor. My voice cracked when I asked, "Who's Samira?" His body stiffened. He didn't pretend not to know. He pulled out a chair, sat down, and stared at the table. "I was going to tell you," he said softly. I sat across from him, arms folded. "Tell me what?" Then came the truth. Not the one I feared, but one I hadn't prepared for. "She's someone I knew before you," he began. "We were engaged briefly years ago. It ended badly. I thought that chapter was closed until she contacted me 5 months ago." I clenched my jaw. "Why?" "She had a child. A boy. His name is Rayan. She says he's mine." The room spun. I had braced for infidelity, not fatherhood. "I didn't cheat on you," he continued, his voice trembling. "But I didn't tell you because I was scared. I didn't want to lose you while trying to do the right thing for him." Tears pricked my eyes. Rayan. A name. A life. I had been expecting betrayal in the shape of passion, lust, or lies. But this was different. This was a secret shaped like responsibility, fear, and unfinished pasts. I didn't know what hurt more, his silence, or the weight of the truth finally being spoken. Ryan gave me space, slept in the guest room, kept his distance, respected the invisible wall I had built between us. I spent hours staring at our wedding photo, searching for answers in the past, questioning everything I thought I knew about the man I married. Rayan. A child. Not mine, yet somehow mine to consider now. Everyone I confided in had an opinion. My sister urged me to leave. "You deserve honesty," she said. My best friend was more measured. He didn't cheat. But he did hide something life-altering. Only you can decide what you can live with. I felt like I was being asked to choose between my heart and my dignity. But real life doesn't come with neat endings or black and white decisions. Love is messy. And sometimes so is forgiveness. Ryan eventually broke the silence. "I'll step back," he said quietly one night. "From both of you, if that's what you need." I was trying to do the right thing, but I did it the wrong way. He didn't beg. He didn't justify. He simply placed the choice in my hands. That honesty, raw, stripped of performance, made me see him differently. Not as a villain. Not even as a hero. just as a flawed man trying to carry the weight of two lives at once. I asked to meet Samira. She agreed without hesitation. To my surprise, she wasn't defensive or bitter. In fact, she apologized. "I didn't reach out to ruin your marriage," she said. "Ayan just kept asking why he didn't have a father like the other kids. That's all." And when I saw Ayan, he looked like Rayan. The same curious eyes. The same shy smile. My heart cracked open in a way I hadn't anticipated. He was innocent. A piece of a past I had no part in, but a future I now had to decide about. After weeks of reflection, I made my choice. I didn't leave. Not because I forgot. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because I believed healing was still possible. Ryan and I started counseling. We set rules. No more secrets. No more emotional cowardice. We faced each other, flaws, fears, and all. Months later, I met Ayan again. This time on my own terms. He ran to Ryan and called him Abo. My chest tightened, but I smiled. Slowly, I began to understand that love, real love, wasn't about what we expect. It was about what we choose, again and again, even when it's hard. I didn't get the fairy tale I once imagined, but I got something else. A story where love bent, cracked, and bled, but didn't break.